All right, we have some attendees rolling in.
All right. What's going on, people?
We'll give everybody a couple of minutes as they get set up and logged in. And I'll start with the intro. So greetings and welcome to the launch of the Ad Club's Ask the Experts virtual series hosted by the Young Professionals Committee. This series was the brainchild of our committee and really to put us in the driver's seat and ask industry thought leaders questions that we want to hear. So my name is Anita Sheares. I am the Senior Manager of Digital Marketing at Swell, and I have the esteemed pleasure of interviewing Walter T. Greer, the third SVP and Group Creative Director of Digital Experience and Innovation at TBWA Worldhealth.
I'm sorry, that was a mouthful.
Yeah, I know. Hey, job title.
Well, I am pumped to be here. I'm very excited. So thank you for having me.
Of course, we are so excited to have you. This is a live event, so everybody can submit their questions to Walter a little bit later, and I'll share his bio so you can see why he deserves that really long job title.
Oh, long.
So Walter is a veteran in the digital advertising space. He holds a total of 6 U.S. patents for digital ad formats and has developed ad products and implemented creative strategies for a variety of publishers and leading technology and media companies, including Google, Viacom, New York Times, and MySpace. Throughout his 20-year career, Walter has architected market-first usability labs, applying biometric research to the development of creative executions and minimizing risk by understanding how consumer emotions and demographics impact brand engagement. Walter was also honored by the Advertising Club of New York's Foundation during the 3rd annual Black History Month recognition series. So we can go ahead and get started. So you have an amazingly long job title. So I'd love for you to share a little bit more about your career journey and what experiences led you to your current role.
Well, that's a tough question. So I use a story a lot, so I'll try not to go too deep, but let's be honest here. Like I lied to get into the industry. Not to say that that is the best way for everyone to go about doing their thing, but no. So like I came out of college and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be like my dad. My dad is an engineer, computer engineer for like Duracell, GE, and a bunch of those places. I just knew I wanted to work on a computer and just like do something, in the dark with Miles Davis playing in the background. And yeah, I mean, I had no idea what I wanted to do. He was like, you should do web design. I was like, I don't even have an email address. Got me an interview somehow. He posted my resume on like monster.com, if some of you remember what that is. And yeah, I went into the interview. They were like, do you know HTML? I was like, yep. Do you know JavaScript? Yep. Do you know Photoshop? Yep. Can you start in 2 weeks? I was like, can you give me 30? Went to the library and learned at the library studying, and then continued to learn on the job, and that was it. So that was like my kind of step into the advertising world, led by lie, 21 years ago.
It's amazing, but at least you were able to catch up within those 3 weeks.
Yeah, nobody caught me. I was making like $7.20 an hour. I was like, thinking I was rich. I was like, my God, I'm making so much money. It was good. It was interesting. I spent about 6 months there, and it was the .com boom. And JP Morgan reached out. They were like, would you like to run the front end of our site? And I was like, sure. And so moved to Boston, and that was that.
That's amazing.
It was interesting.
So now you are currently at TBWA Worldhealth, and it is one of the world's leading healthcare advertising agencies. And the core philosophy guiding the agency is disruption. So my next question is 2-part. First, it would be great if you could tell us a little bit about what the agency means by disruption and how this philosophy shows up in the work that you do for your clients. And then second, what does it mean to you personally to work for a company that seeks to disrupt?
Yeah, so it's a good reason why I came here. I think the approach and thought behind design and the work that we do is unique, right? It is what launched iconic brands like Apple, right? In Apple, like that's where we started the whole disruption. And we have what's called a disruption roadmap. And it's really interesting. And it's essentially 3 steps, right? And when we talk about disruption gets you from the status quo of today to what is your vision of the future, right? So when we look at different work that we're doing, it's not just a good enough to say, well, let's understand your product and then let's build something, out around it that we think resonates. But our approach is more of really digging deeper and understanding more about the brand in terms of, step 1, which is convention. Convention is like where we are today, right? To getting to like step 3, right? I'm skipping step 2, step 3, which is, okay, this is your vision and this is where you want to go. But to get to step 3, you have, disruption. So I can use an example for the folks who've seen our Black Health Now initiative, which is essentially around kind of, really kind of combating the systemic racism and bias that's built into the healthcare system. Convention to us, right, and for that whole kind of initiative was that racism infects the health space the same way it infects all of society, right? Disruption for us was Black Health Matters, right? And vision for us is that that race has no place in health. Right. So that's how we look at like across the spectrum of like, okay, a brand wants to get here. This is where they and the rest of the industry are today. And what's the path that allows us to actually get to that vision? What I like about that is, again, it's TBWA is an agency where we thrive off that, right? And thriving off that kind of like that way of moving forward allows us to do bigger and bolder work. At TBWA Worldhealth, like we have, these our thought and approach to everything is about like doing good, right? And being bold and doing the brave thing. And it's nice to work at a place that's just not afraid to committing to doing shit that actually matters.
I love that. I think a huge part of disruption is the risk. And if you embrace that, then the outcome is so much better than, anything else.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And for a lot of brands and agencies and companies as a whole, like that risk is a challenge for folks, right? And without taking the risk, you're never going to, excel or really have a ton of success, right? And the bigger issue with that is not a lot of people are afraid to fail, right? And failing is okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So in your role, you are responsible for creating transformative digital and innovative creative solutions for clients. So what shifts have you seen in terms of clients, the projects that your clients are bringing to you guys in response to the COVID-19 pandemic?
I think, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, of course, on the health side, we weren't really affected that much, right? Of course, there's some pharma agencies or pharma companies who have to hold back a little bit because certain things or medications and whatnot lower your immune system. But for the bulk of the work that we've been doing, everyone's moving full steam ahead. And I think that what's been interesting is that we are now embracing digital in a manner that you've never seen people embrace digital. And let's be honest, like the health space most certainly is. It's like 6, 7, 8 years behind everyone else. And the reason why is because the pharma companies are in a race to be second, right? And it's like no one wants to take that first step. And so because of this, there's a lack of innovation. And what's been, there's nothing really great about this pandemic, but in terms of from a business point of view, what's been nice is that this has now forced everyone to think digital first, right? If you can't go out and shoot content in the street or you can't do a convention, right? Then how does your brand connect to people in ways that are meaningful or connect to people in ways that are memorable and magical? And the only real way to do that is by using this kind of digital ecosystem. And when I even hate to use the word digital because at the end of the day, really what it's about is experiences. Everything is digital, right? It's about experiences that matter. And when we talk about how we bridge the gap between like just doing shit to do it and creating experiences that matter, it's about how do you bring together innovation, design, and data, and really kind of merge those through together to create that moment for someone that's impactful.
That's great.
But yes, I think it's that really the digital piece. But what's cool about it too is that we're allowed to think bigger and broader right now, which is nice.
Right. I think before it was everybody was trying to take things and other formats and other concepts and put it in digital, and now digital's hot. So it's great to be in digital. It's a great space, and it's great to be able to, use this, pandemic and really be innovative and creative and do tests and take risks that you might not have been able to do before.
Absolutely. And I'll say too, and because you'd mentioned like the patents, and I have like 6 or 7 patents, but the thing is, a lot of people think that coming up with a big idea is easy for people. And I can tell you right now, the amount of failures I had to get to one big idea, or I'll even show you facts. So when I was at Viacom, I built out a usability lab. It was one of the first biometric research labs ever built, right? We partnered with MIT, and it allowed us to understand the emotional and cognitive effect of someone when they engage with the brand. So we were pulling things like pupil dilation, arousal, which is sweat in the palms, eye tracking, facial expressions, whether they're leaning forward or backwards, heart rate. And through this, you could tell what works based off color, call to action, animation, speed, of like the whole 9 yards. But through this testing, I was able to understand how people engage and why they engage. But I was ideating and building out probably 4 to 5 products a quarter, right? Like fully building out. And I might have had like 1 hit a year, right? That ended up being some of those patents. So I failed a lot to get to the successful moments, and it can be challenging, but getting to those moments is also rewarding.
Definitely. I mean, you got 5 or 6 patents, so it definitely sounds like it paid off. So, you talked a little bit about what your agency was doing with Black Health now, and with the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, we are seeing lots of brands and agencies making statements in support of the Black community. What policies and actionable steps do you think that companies can take to show not only their Black customers, but their Black employees that they're serious about dismantling systemic racism?
That's a really good question. I don't know that I have the answer, right? But I would say that it starts with having the uncomfortable conversation, right? Like I've had a lot of conversations with people, not specifically at my agency, but conversations with people who have used that Black word for the first time in a conversation with a Black person.
Started capitalizing it.
It's like, well, is it singular or is it plural? Is it the Blacks or the Black? Yeah, a Black. I need to hire a Black. I heard that, and so it's a weird thing. But again, like I think it starts with having the uncomfortable conversation, right? I think it also then boils down to your senior leadership believing that change needs to happen, right? And look, let's be honest. Like I think there's a lot of people who are talking the talk right now, but a majority of them, excuse me, are waiting the shit out, right? I think a lot of people are saying, well, let's see what happens in November. We don't have to make too much noise, right? So I don't know that, look, my hope is that we see change come of this. What's nice is that people are having the conversations now that we've never had. I've seen, people of color and Black people specifically getting reached out to for jobs that they weren't getting reached out to 2 and 3 months ago. But I think that the bigger thing here is that senior leadership at these companies and or agencies and brands need to put people of color at the table. It's not good enough to go get a junior designer and say, hey, we got 6 junior designers right out of college and they just started. Well, those junior designers are going to leave after a small amount of time when they don't see anyone else that looks like them there or is in senior leadership. So part of that is a two-way thing. One is, do I see someone who is senior here and shows me that there's a pathway? And now I have someone to reach out to as a mentor or ask questions of that have been through similar things as me. Now, the other piece, the bigger piece, I think, is also culture, right? So do you have a culture that allows someone to feel comfortable? I've worked at a lot of places over my career where I did not feel comfortable, right? And as many of us know, being the only Black person in a room, there's this feeling of, I don't know that I should speak out because I don't want to look like the angry Black person, right? Or I should watch the way I talk and the word that I use because I don't want them to think I'm hood or something like that, or the way that I dress, or the thing, so there's a heavy burden resting upon us when we walk into these environments. So it's creating an atmosphere that allows people to feel comfortable, which also stems down to just more of us being in the room and at the table.
Right. And I actually saw you post on LinkedIn about, it was kind of like a call to action, basically saying like your Black employees are ready. You don't have to, seek somebody from the outside in a position of leadership. You can promote within.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I love Netflix with what they did with Boz, right? And putting her into that. I mean, she's probably like one of the most powerful CMOs like in the world, like legit right now, which is a beautiful thing. And that, when I was talking to that post, it's like, we get that people right now, not every agency, not every company has the money or budget to put in this senior, God knows, I'm sure she's at a, $1 million mark, right? But there most certainly are a hell of a lot of people of color who are ready for that promotion, right? So that post is about, look, like, you don't have to go make this giant move that Netflix did. Promote the people that are there, because I rest assured they are ready.
Agree. And then I think to your other point about, Black employees feeling that burden, is that there are agencies, there are consultants that you can reach out to and pay to be able to address some of your like company culture needs and, evaluate that. The burden should not be on your Black employees to have to, share their experience or, tell you what to fix if A, they're not getting paid for it and they don't feel comfortable doing that.
Absolutely. I can't tell you, and I'm sure you have, and every other Black person that's watching this, how many people from other companies have reached out like, hey, would you mind talking to my friend here about like what we could do? And like, talk to our CEO. And I'm like, I'm not a diversity officer.
Right.
Go hire someone to do that. Go pay someone to do that, right? Like, I don't know. I can't solve your problems. It's been interesting, to say the least.
And so you mentioned earlier your agency's Black Health Now initiative. So was that campaign in response to the resurgence of Black Lives Matter? Was this in the works before? How did you guys get this up the ladder and out the door?
Yeah, absolutely not. So that we launched that in Black History Month in February.
Okay.
So it was literally, so the way so it was me and two other counterparts. One is white, our ECD, another Black woman. She's our associate managing partner here. So it was Wally Holloway and Brian Gaffin. We had a diversity and inclusion meeting. Wally had presented a story of hers that was personal to her. Brian came back like, oh my gosh, we should do something around this for Black History Month. I don't know what it is. They brought me in the loop, and then we were like, we got it. Let's tell stories of disparities, like the real issues right now. How Black people, we are, like Black women are two times as likely to die giving birth than a white woman. A child, Black child is like two or three times more likely to die in infancy than a white child. There's so many numbers out there and facts, but the bigger problem is that facts are numbers on pages, right? That we can easily gloss over. So it started with, well, how do we tell a story that allows people to actually truly engage and listen and tune in and learn from it? And like I always say about video content is so powerful, right? Like, we knew that police brutality was a thing, but it wasn't until we saw Rodney King getting beat on the side of the highway that everyone said, oh my God, this is crazy. So our intent was the same. It's like, let our Black employees tell their stories. And there were 2-minute segments. We rolled them out every single day, and they were gut wrenching. It picked up a ton of steam. And what was nice about it is that so many other agencies, like, we look on social media and they were like, for Black History Month, like, we have soul food for Black History Month. Or like, I swear to God, and I apologize if anyone is watching from this agency, so I won't call them out by name. One agency had Beyonce running 24 hours around the clock in their fucking conference room. Right? And they're like, Black History Month, Beyonce formation. So it's crazy to me. So we launched it before. And what was interesting is we had these initiatives and different things we were going to set off. The second kind of part of it, we were going to launch like questionnaires and questions, a site you can go to get a list of 10 questions where Black people can go into a doctor's office and make sure that they're being seen appropriately. But as we were about to launch that, this COVID starts hitting. We decided to pump the brakes. A couple weeks later, the numbers come out, and it's like the disparities in the numbers hit. And it is exactly what we were addressing for the past like 6 or 7 weeks. So we decided, let's get back out there and have these conversations. But the pivot was, let's actually do them through live streams. At the time, I had been doing live streams around just COVID, and I had Sweetie on, and I had like Andy Dick join me for another one. And we decided, let's tap into the culture by bringing in people that are recognizable, but for the first time, focus on self-care, right? Because every news, even to now, it's like, Black people are dying at alarming rates. Don't go out, don't go to parties, put your gloves on, put your mask on, but no one's saying like the crux of the issue and how to help. So I had like last year we had like the very first doctors to deal with COVID cases. And guess what? They were Black, right? We had, I had Tiana Bartoletto, who's a 3-time gold medalist, reigning world champion in the long jump and world record holder, come on and we did like a half an hour workout session. Like, you don't have to have a gym to stay healthy, right? If you stay healthy, work out, these are things that could stop and prevent some of the issues that we have that is causing issues with COVID. I had Chef Marcus Samuelson, right, who was in his kitchen cooking live. A couple weeks ago, I had Randy Jackson from American Idol talking about mental health. So we just tapping in and kind of having these conversations that we felt was just important for people to hear and tune into and listen to. And thus far, we've had a little over like 50,000 live viewers total.
That's amazing. And I think I love that you're bringing it to Facebook, you're live there, because, the news during this time period can be very overwhelming. And, I like that, you're finding celebrities and people that people can relate to and look up to, and people that, people want to see in different ways to address like health.
Yeah, absolutely. But what was really beautiful about that too is when we decided on the idea of what to do, it was like I was never forget, it was like a Wednesday afternoon. We came up with the idea. Brian sent the email out to our CEO and president and chief creative officer at like 7:30 p.m. And by 8:30, we had approval to start it. And we launched the first one a week later, right? So it was like, it wasn't even a question. It was like, yes, these disparities, these numbers are alarming. Let's do something about it.
Perfect. Speaking of doing something about things, we've been talking a lot about the Black community, but I also wanted to plug some work that you have been working on in terms of launching diversecreatives.com. So for those of you who do not know, it is a site that recruiters and advocates can use to employ more diverse talent. So Walter, where did you come up with this idea, and how many people do you have in your database so far?
Yeah, it's funny, about a year ago, a year and a half ago, actually, I was kind of just sitting home and thinking like, my God, like I've been in this space for 20 years. The only Black creative I've ever worked with, creatives, were 2 developers who were on my last team, the last company I worked for. And I just felt like I've never had anyone to talk to about my problems, who can understand the things that I'm going through, never had a mentor. I wish I had someone that looked like me that I could talk to. So I decided I'm just going to go out and scour LinkedIn and just like pull in as many Black creative directors as I can. So I came up with a small list. As I was creating it, a guy by the name of, who happens to be a good friend now, Ron Lewis, who's the vice president and creative director over at McCann Health. This brother reached out and he was like, hey man, I saw you were doing this, you were speaking at this event. I just wanted to talk to you. I'm putting together a list of Black creative directors and wanted to see if you'd be involved. And it was like, we should trade documents. Yeah, let's figure it out. Right. We traded. He was number 6 on my list, okay? And then it was like, we decided let's do something. Like, what do we do with this? And at the time it was Black CDs, let's get the message out. Maybe we could do something where we meet or talk every couple of weeks or once a month. We put pump the brakes a little bit, just life happened. He has a little son and my daughter. Then I guess like 2 weeks ago, I reached out with everything that's going on now, that I've been pretty vocal. I have like diarrhea of the mouth. I apologize. And I just reached out to him and it's like, hey man, like we need it. Like now's the time. Let's put it out. Let's get it out. So we started building it and we put a call out. I did a post on LinkedIn, and with just that post alone, we have around 1,300 submissions, which is crazy. And then we're going to merge our list that we have, and we're launching on Monday with potentially about around 2,000, which is a beautiful thing, because again, like if we had come back with like 200 people, we wouldn't have launched this. Because if we launched it, hey, here's all these diverse creators and there's 200, then agencies and companies would say, see, told you they were, yep, told you it was hard to find. You couldn't even find them, right? But what's nice is that, like 8 days, we got 12 or 1,300 people to sign up. That's crazy, right? So we're a couple publications have picked it up, and we had a few interviews yesterday and today, and they're going to roll out on Monday when we release. And the intent is really to show the world that we exist, right? So be on the list, not because like you're trying to get recruited out, right? And for the diversity officers or recruiters watching, don't think of it as an opportunity for your employees to get pouched, but look at it as an opportunity to really kind of raise up these individuals and celebrate, Black and brown creatives. So the intent is that, it's a platform where if you want to go and find people that look like you to talk to, then that's great, right? We're not a social media platform, but what we are doing is allowing agencies to connect and find the talent that they say that they can't find. And by the way, it is 100% free.
That's awesome. Well, everybody tuning in should definitely fill that form out. It's diversecreatives.com.
Yes.
So when you look back at your entire career, which spans over 20 years, and this will probably be hard for you to choose one, but like, what are you most proud of?
That's really hard. In terms of the work that I've done, or
Like anything in your career, like what are you most proud of?
I'd honestly say that, like, I don't know that it's a thing, but I think the moment that I'm in now, and the reason why I'd say is because I'm not an influencer by any means, but I think that I am in a moment where, being one of very few senior Black creative directors, and there's like less than 10 that are senior vice president and above in the space, I feel we're in a moment where people are listening, right? And I am fortunate to have a small microphone that some people have a tendency of listening and hearing. So I'm just proud of being able to try to make an impact on people's lives, right? And this stems from a lot of the work I've been doing over the past several or few months, 4 or 5 months, with like Black Health Now, and then just like diverse creatives. I want to do more for us because I don't think that we are doing enough for each other. And it's a sad thing because there are so many, and I say this all the time and I'm going to get shit for this, but like there are so many Black executives. We make it to a certain point and then we're comfortable, right? I made it. I'm getting my fat check. I got my in-ground pool in the back, my Corvette in the garage. I'm good. I'm not going to ruffle any feathers, right? Or you'll have chief diversity officers who are out here shucking and jiving like, yeah, hey, I'm at the Grammys or I'm at Cannes and check me out on, my live on Instagram and this and that. And when it comes down to it, like posting stuff like that instead of posting the talent that they're finding. So I talk about this because when I say we aren't doing enough, it is we need to come off of our seats and come down and figure out how to send the elevator back down. Right? Whether you're a diversity officer, whether you're a Black executive, it is our job and responsibility to reach back and help the next individual. And I feel like right now, again, it's like I'm doing all that I can to help other people, and it feels good when you're doing work that matters.
No, I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I'm sure lots of other people do, because, it does feel good to know that there are people that are ready to like reach down and, use their influence, whether you feel like you're an influencer or not, to really, help others.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell people too, like, you don't have to be an influencer to help make change. You know what I mean? Like, it is a simple post, right? It's changing one person's thought process. It's not a difficult thing. I tell people, we all have access. Right now, we have access to the same tools, right? Like, anyone can get on and do an Instagram live. Anyone, like, and I tell people too, it's like, getting a celebrity on your live to talk about a topic that's genuine and meaningful is not hard. Like, all the celebrities that we've dealt with over the past couple months with Black Health Now, we've paid them $0. Every single one of them, I picked up a phone and I cold called them. Right, like I was cold calling like Idris Elba. Like, hey Idris, you don't know me. Give me 5 minutes.
Oh, he's married now, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's real stuff. It's it's not hard right now. So we're in a moment where people are listening. So like, get out there and make change. Like, we all have the ability to do it.
I love that. Well, speaking of making change, next year you're going to be on the board of directors for the Advertising Club of New York.
Yes.
So what are you most excited about in this new role?
That's a great question. I'm just happy to be involved, right? It's a great organization. They've done quite a bit for me. Being a rock star was amazing, coming out to that event, and some really incredible people over there, and Gina and Erica. I just want to help be a part of making a change, right? And making a difference. And I think that's what they're out there doing.
And then my final question before I kick it off to Q&A. So those of you who have Q&A questions, keep putting them in. So my final question is, what is the best career advice that you've ever received?
That is a very good question. You know what? Here, this one, and this is going to be a little bit, or I'm just going to say it. So I had a gentleman, another Black executive who's retired now, who I go to for quite a bit of help. And at one point, he had said something to me that I was like, "Wow!" Right? And it was a point in my career where I was kind of thinking about the different things that I'm doing and so on and so forth, and how I move ahead. And he said like this. He said, "You know, white boys will ask for whatever they want, right? Black people, we don't often do that because we've been raised to be nice and polite and courteous and not ruffle the feathers." And he had said to me, ask for the shit that you want, the same way that a white boy would ask for the shit that he wants. And I thought that was interesting, and it allowed me to be a little more bold and confident in the things that I'm trying to get, right? So I'd say that one, right? And it's something that I do often repeat to other folks, especially now, right? People reaching out to me and say, "Hey, I got all these opportunities now. What should I do?" And I tell people, get that bag. Tell them to pull up the Brinks truck, right? Brinks truck, excuse me. Ask for the shit that you want, because you might not get another opportunity like this anytime soon.
I like that. All right, so now I'm gonna check out the Q&A.
Uh-oh. We can get personal, people. It's totally fine.
We're getting really specific. Okay. So this one is from Esty. She said, "What industry blogs / websites do you read regularly?"
That's a good, oh man, that's a good question. You know, this is going to be embarrassing when I answer this, so thanks for putting me on the spot. So I read CNN like religiously, but what I find funny is I'll often, whenever breaking news comes out, I'll also flip over to the Fox News, because I think the way they tell the stories is just like, wow, it's just so telling. For like industry stuff like Adweek, Ad Age, Fast Co. Here's the embarrassing one. Like, I'm on World Star like every fucking day. It's embarrassing. It's like my guilty pleasure. I feel horrible saying that. But also, like, truth be said though, like when it comes to, a lot of people say, well, what sites do you read? What inspires you to do the work that you do? Zero. And I say that because like I'm a big fan of like going out into the world, travel, get around, meet people. Like, I experience things and then bring them back into my work. I hate looking at other people's work, because if you continue to look at other people's work, then your work will eventually start to look the same, or you'll aspire to do the same things. So my thing is like, even when people send me like, hey, check out this creative, check out this work that someone, like, I'm usually hesitant to check it out unless people say it's like really incredible or amazing. So that's how I've kind of kept ahead of the curve in terms of innovation over my career, really just not looking at everything or not looking at everyone else's work.
Very cool. So the next question is, with disruption comes a lot of failures. How do you deal with those?
That's a good question. I mean, it takes a certain type of person to be okay with failure, right? And I think failing is like it's a learned behavior when it happens a lot. It's like you get to this moment of, okay, well, that didn't work. Well, let's move on. I'm the type of person, like, I let stuff roll off my shoulder pretty easily, right? I'll go into a meeting with people on my team or counterparts, and I'll give them an idea, and I don't want anyone to wrestle with it or feel bad about telling me they don't like it. One of the first things I'll say is, honest to God, I always say, look, if the idea is shit, tell me it's shit. I completely don't care. No emotional strings attached to it, right? So you have to be okay with receiving, bad information just as well as good, right? And truth be said, I don't really like getting good feedback, right? I much prefer the bad feedback, because even when your work is incredible, there's always going to be something you could have done better. So don't tell me, like, I can't stand when people are like, oh my God, that was amazing. So I say, like, well, tell me what was wrong with it. Like, tell me what could have made it a little better. So with failing though, like over my career, like failing, I'll give you a great example of failure to success. So when I was at Viacom, I was trying to think about video, right? What is video and what video opportunities? And the bigger thing was like, no, we're force feeding 30-second pre-rolls down people's throats. We're trading these opportunities online on your desktop or your mobile device the same way we treat TV, and it's like absolutely wrong. So how do we differentiate? What do we do for clients? So I was thinking, okay, well, my boss said, well, think of a new format for video. And I was like, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know what to do, right? So like, we went through so many different iterations of like, well, how can someone like do something different or unique, or how can they interact with the video? And I must have given him like 10, 11, 12 ideas. And he was like, nope, 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 nope. And then every time I got a no, I learned from that no, right? Okay, it's like, all right, he said no to this, and we did this differently here. So maybe I'll pivot and turn it this way. So like after like 20 or 25 or God knows how many more no's, I ended up landing on skippable pre-roll, right? Skippable pre-roll, which we all know is you go to watch any video content and you get 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 skip. Like, so I invented and patented that, but that came out of like a slew and like 3 months worth of fuck ups to the point where like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired here. Like I'm not developing or creating anything or what I was, meant to or hired for. So yeah, I mean, success comes, you got to be okay with failing.
All right, our next question comes from Anna, and they ask, how can we hold our agencies accountable for being more inclusive and diverse? What are some steps we can take as people of color to make sure we are being represented properly within our agencies?
Yeah, I think Bennett and Nathan are doing a good job of that with 600 plus, right? Which is making sure that these agencies are actually sharing the numbers. I think the biggest win, right, would be to get every agency to share their numbers, because if their numbers are public, it's just like your stocks, right? If your stocks are low, nobody wants to fuck with it, right? Your stocks are good, like, all right, these guys, I saw this trajectory, like in this, I am definitely gonna hop on top of that and buy some, right? So I want to see your stock, right? And stock to me is how many of us do you have there, right? Not just total, but across the board, but like in senior leadership, mid-level, junior level. And then I want to know, what are your retention numbers, right? Because retention is the one that's often missed by everyone. It's easy to say, hey, we have 50 Black people and 3 of them are executives and the other are this. Okay, great. But like of that 50, like how many are rolling in and out every single year, and why are they leaving, and how long have they been there until they left, right? That'll tell you a lot about who an agency is and what they do and what they're doing right or wrong. But I'd say, it's tough. The question is, what can we do? I think it's asking our leadership to share these numbers. I think it's being vocal and not sitting back and being the quiet person and expecting change to happen, right? Rather than asking for it. We can't be afraid to raise our hand and address an issue, right? And I think that we're seeing that more. And I gotta say, I think the younger generation now is doing a way better job than the older generation. I think the millennials and these guys are like, fuck this, I don't like this because of X, Y, and Z. I see it on social media. I see it in meetings, and it's dope. I love it. Like, we need that energy, right? Keep doing that. And I think if we're vocal, then they have to listen or be embarrassed.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then I also think now is a very interesting time period because, a lot of our coworkers and colleagues are asking us, how we feel. And I think if people feel comfortable sharing with their people of color colleagues, it doesn't feel great to be in a company where there are no Black people in positions of power, no people of color in positions of power, and, use your white privilege to be able to speak and to be able to advocate without somebody asking you to do so,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So Brandon asked, if you weren't working in advertising, what would you be doing?
I would be racing motorcycles full time. I am an amateur sport bike racer. I race in something called yeah. It's been since my daughter's born. I took a little hiatus. I was supposed to go back and get back out there this year, but COVID. But I was racing in what's called the Championship Cup Series. It's a series across the East Coast with like tracks from like down to Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, like all over, New Jersey. And I would look. I'd probably be making absolutely nothing, but that would be fun. Another thing is like you know, when I was young, I always wanted to just be an engineer. Like, and it was just a thing. Like, my dad was an engineer, so like I never knew what an engineer was until like college. And I just always knew that it was like cool, like to see him on the computer and doing his little stuff. So probably like that, an engineer or like a sport, like some type of athlete.
A guitar player.
Yeah, yeah, guitar player.
Background.
Yeah. Join a band, hit the road.
All right. The next question is from Andrew. And the question is, what are some current projects or stories that you're currently, excited to share and promote, if there's anything that you can share or promote? Talked about diversecreatives.com.
I can, I want to say one, but I don't know if I can say it. I think I could say it. So like, I'm just thinking like, what can I say? What can I not say? We are working, this is a dope one. We are working with an agent. So I won't say the name. I'll kind of like blind it. We are working with a really dope company on sickle cell. And what is dope about that is that it is the first, and I don't know that you want to call it a cure, but is the first medication, it's the first treatment that actually heals the body. So every treatment for sickle cell right now is pain management, right? But what happens with sickle cell, people don't realize that sickle cell is just as bad and tragic as cancer, right? Like the life expectancy and everything is just as bad, and people don't know that. And I say that because all the treatments have just treated the pain rather than what happens on the inside of your body. And what happens on the inside of your body is like your organs and everything die, right? So this is a treatment that's the first treatment that actually heals your insides. And that's been dope because like when we talk about sickle cell is like 99% of people affected by sickle cell are Black, people of color. And what not a lot of people know about sickle cell too, in terms of the treatment and whatnot, like Black Panthers were the ones who actually were the first ones to advocate for this and create programs, government-funded programs to help these individuals, right? Just like we saw the food programs in high school, right, that the government then ended up taking up. Like Black Panthers were responsible for so many things that we don't know about. But just the history behind sickle cell and what this client is doing is incredible. So it's really dope to be behind a company and a product that will change Black people's lives by saving them, really.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to do our final question. Has to be good.
You can go all in, all in.
There's so many. This one is really good. All right, this comes from John.
Okay.
And the question is, looking at marketing teams across big companies, big name, big brand agencies that are majority all white, when the numbers are shared, what next? Do you turn down a job that gives you the bag, gets you a step closer to influence who's hired next? Like what comes next once the numbers are published? What do we do?
That is a good question. Wow, that is a good question. So this is, I struggle with that, right? Because everyone, I hate saying this, but like everyone has to be a first, right? So when these companies are showing their numbers and they come back horrific, we'll say. And if you're thinking of taking an opportunity there, what I would say is if it is an opportunity of leadership, I'd start with saying, I can take this job, but I'm not going to take this job unless you represent, or this many people are represented by people of color. So I did a post today on LinkedIn where like over the past several weeks, I'm getting everyone, can you keynote this? Can you get on our live? Can you be a judge, for one of our juries for this large, whatever award show? And I've told them all the same thing. And I decided to just put it publicly on LinkedIn because I'm just tired of repeating it. But I said, I am not going to do it unless the individuals that are on this, right, are representative in terms of diversity, are representative of the numbers that we see in the US. So Black people, we represent 13% of the US population. So if there's 100%, or if there's 100 juries or jurors working on this award show and you want me, that means it's got to be me and 12 other Black people. And if you don't hit those numbers, then I'm not going to do it. I don't care if it's a person below. So when you hit 13 or when you hit 12, call me up, and I guarantee you, I'm not going to lie, I guarantee you I will join and be a part of your event. Right? So I think if we see more people do things like this that have the power to make these choices, then you're bringing on more people. So when they come to me and say, okay, I need, when I say I need 12 other people, I don't say find them. I also say, and here's 11 that I know. Right? So I'd say start there, right? If you have the ability to make change, make change. And if you're junior, then I think it's okay to ask the questions like, okay, well, how do you plan on being more diverse? Right? And ask, can I talk to don't be afraid to ask to speak to senior leadership, right? And ask to speak to those folks. We have people that are interviewing here for a vast amount of other jobs that are Black, who reach out to me separately on LinkedIn and say, hey, well, can I talk to you? I'm interviewing over there. I want to know the real deal, right? And I tell people, like, anyone who asks for my time on LinkedIn, wherever it be, like, I always respond to people. I always make time to talk to people because it's important. I know I didn't have that opportunity. I know I've still have times where I reach out to people and then a Black executive and they won't respond or say a word to me. And it's frustrating, right? So, ask the questions. It's okay to ask the tough questions before you take the opportunity or the job.
And what's great about publishing the numbers is then it makes them accountable, like to even have like your company or your agency share those numbers, people are going to ask questions. So, we have to hold them accountable to the follow-up. So everybody who posted about Black Lives Matter and we're doing internal audits and we're going to circle back in the comments, circle back on their LinkedIn post, reshare it and bring it back up to make sure that, these agencies, companies, whoever are being held accountable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like we could just keep doing this for like another hour.
I know, right? You got to invite me on your Facebook Live with all your celebrity friends.
Wait, Instagram. It's Instagram.
Instagram, sorry.
I'm in control of
Cool.
Facebook.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Walter. It has been absolutely amazing interviewing you. Thank you to all of our guests. I mean, our live attendees. This is my first time going live, so I'm too politically correct. But no, thank you so much. Everybody, please stay tuned for more content from the Young Professionals Committee on the Advertising Club of New York's virtual clubhouse. So thank you so much.
Awesome. And if for anyone who wants to follow on some of the Black Health Now initiative, all of those are done on our Instagram lives. I think we're going to do another one probably next week.
Instagram live?
I can't. It's on mine. So it's so we do it. It's if you look, it's Third Gears at Third Gear. So 3RDGEERS. But that's what we do them all. I think our next one next week, I believe, is going to be around mental health for Black women. I won't say who we're bringing on, but it'll be interesting.
I'm sure it will be.
Check it out. And thank you. This has been amazing. This is the best live I've had all month. So thank you. This is great. This is a great conversation.
All right. Well, thank you. You guys have a great night.
Take care. Bye.